Minister coined the phrase tough on crime, tough on the causes of crime. And coming to your modest little question, what does the US do? I think there are two issues in relation to what it is that has made the US such a target. The first is dependence on oil, and the second is the Israeli-Palestinian issue. And if there are two issues more than any other that need to be addressed, it is those two issues. President Obama really wants to address these issues, recognizing that in large part, US foreign policy and military policy over the last 3 decades, since the early 1970s, has been driven by an excessive dependence on oil. He would think he would do the unthinkable. He would basically say, right, we will, within 10 years, cut our dependence on foreign oil totally. 10 years from now, we will not need to import a single barrel of oil from anywhere else in the world. And if that were to be achieved through the type of innovation, technological creativity that this country we know is well able to do, you would extraordinarily quickly completely transform the circumstances. Think out of the box. Imagine what that means in terms of the United States' desire to impose a degree of stability in the Gulf. It becomes far, far less significant if you can find ways of meeting domestic energy needs, whether it's through nuclear, whether it's through renewables, whether it's through other alternative sources of energy. It would be transformative. And that sort of thinking leads you essentially to really deal with the unthinkable. Let General Motors collapse, for example. Imagine a United States without a single major car maker. The lobby that promotes foreign oil would collapse very, very soon because the two are very closely connected. I'm not saying that that is what should be done, but if you really want to address what's at the heart of the problem of fundamentalism and of terrorism is reactive to other concerns, and it's about presence, and it's about imposition of values, and it's about other things. In relation to Israel and Palestine, it's clear it's not a politically correct thing to say in this country. It's a politically correct thing to say in Britain, which is a close friend of Israel. Israel's got to go back to the 1967 borders. It's got to be given an absolute guarantee of security. But the situation of allowing any particular country to do what it is doing in terms of exceeding its rights under international law is intolerable. And I think if Obama is brave, which I suspect on this issue will be impossible, he will say to the Israelis, we will continue to support you, and we will strengthen our support for you, but we will only do so if you go back to the borders that you have undertaken to respect, which relate to your 1967 borders. And that would break the deadlock in those negotiations. And I think in that scenario, with the Saudis pushing very strongly right now for an Israeli-Palestinian peace accord, with a Syria that is willing to engage on this issue, as Jordan did and as Egypt did, and let's not forget that those peace accords have now been maintained in the case of Egypt for nearly 3 decades and for Jordan for more than 15 years, perfectly workably and perfectly successfully. I think you would transform the political process. It requires some bright new thinking. It requires thinking the unthinkable. But I think if you really want to address these issues, it's not going to be just about promoting the rule of law, returning to a system in which you don't do torture, but addressing what are the root causes of the real challenges that the United States faces. And I think it's only once those issues are addressed that one gets to term on the issues. And the experience of Britain in relation to the IRA, which was talked about, I think teaches some very, very powerful lessons. In 1970 and 71, Britain moved to abuse, internment, Bloody Sunday, and on many people's accounts that extended the conflict by between 10 and 15 years. And it was only when, starting in the government of John Major, they began to look at what the underlying causes of the conflict were. Discrimination against the Catholic community in Northern Ireland and related issues. When they really genuinely began to address those issues, that the political transformation took place. And ultimately it does also mean, as happened with the IRA, you're going to have to talk to these people. Let's call a spade a spade. We are going to have to talk to Al-Qaeda. That is not a happy thing to say, but they exist, they are real, they are there, they have demands. And just as Britain said publicly, we will never engage with the IRA, we will never talk with the IRA, of course what we learned with the passage of time was that at the crucial moments there was indeed contact through informal channels. It doesn't mean a Prime Minister sitting down with Jerry Adams. It doesn't mean a President Obama or a President Bush sitting down with someone on behalf of Al-Qaeda. There are ways of having these conversations, and it wouldn't surprise me in the least if they are already going on right now.
I'm good.
Okay, well, I want to thank our panel. I want to leave you with one quote and one thought about this symposium. It was not an accident that we chose rule of law at the beginning of the title of this symposium. Most of us here are lawyers. Words are very important to lawyers. They have meaning, and it's important how they're used. I'd like to leave with you just kind of out there a quote that was made by the President shortly after 9/11. He said, "We will bring justice to our enemies or our enemies to justice." And I just asked the question, in the context of lawyers, have we done that? And so thank you so much. I want to thank a few people for this great symposium, and I want to start off with all of you that are participating, all of our presenters, all of our panelists. You've done a great job, and you've made this just a superb symposium. There are a group of people I'm going to thank. I thanked at the beginning, but our Washburn Law School crew who helped make this symposium so successful. Professors Bill Merkel, Merle Duncan, and Tim Belson from the Law Journal, who moved me to consider having this symposium back last spring. For all of those who work so very hard, and there's a growing list of people that have made this so successful. Professor Lynn Gehring, Donna Vilander, Martin Wisniewski, Marcia Boswell, Donna McMurray, Jessica Dorsey, our Law Journal staff, all of them, but particularly Jonathan Rhodes and Troy Larson, and one person who's been behind the scenes for the last 2 days, but has really made our audio and our video go so well, Glenn Macbeth. Thank you, Glenn. So thank you for being here, and thank you for participating in this symposium.